Hey everyone, Dr. T here. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to center on the pottery wheel. The first step to centering is good body positioning. We want to be straddling the wheel with our legs. We want a nice straight back so that way we can bend at our waist and have nice leverage over this clay. We also want to be at a spot where we can lock in our elbows into our thighs. We don't want to be too low on the wheel where our arms will hit the splash pan. You can go ahead and wet the wheel head and then hold the ball of clay in one hand and plop it right down. As you can see, it's not quite in the middle. We want to do the best that we can to get it the most in the middle possible so that way we can have a nicer time centering this clay. Give the clay a smack. That will also help keep it stuck down and mitigate the chance of it flying off while we are centering. We can begin the process by taking a finger, getting it wet, and then putting it on the side here and pushing down at that bottom edge so that way that clay is really stuck down onto that wheel head. Now I'll take my left arm, and the elbow of my left arm is going to go right into my thigh or hip area to anchor into place. I'll also put a little bit of body weight on this arm. The heel of this left hand is going to go behind all of that clay. With my right hand, I'm going to take my right thumb and lock it behind my left thumb. And then the tips and pads of my right hand fingers will be doing a squeezing / claw motion to bring that clay into the heel of my left hand. I'm going to try and keep my left hand as still and as strong as possible. I'll also have a little bit of a forward lean towards the clay. Now I will demonstrate what this will look like. I'll get my hands nice and wet as well as the clay. I will lock in right here, and then this heel comes right there. Fingers go around, and I'm just going to squeeze that clay into the heel of my left hand. And so that is where the clay was getting distributed. That's where I was doing that pressure. Now that's up in a cone shape, I can bring it back down. We'll have our hands in that same position that they just were in. I'm going to angle them at a 45-degree angle so that way I can still press forward and press down at the same time with this left hand. And so I'll start doing that. I'll press forward and down. My right hand is for supplementary pressure, so that thumb is assisting on top, and then the fingers will go on the side. For this, we want to be spinning at a nice medium speed, maybe a little bit faster than medium. We can slowly then take our hands off of the clay. We can check to see how centered it is. One way I like to check, take my finger and hold it like so and slowly move it in until that clay touches my finger. You see how it just ever so slightly barely touches my finger here. I want to go until my finger is touching that clay all the way around. And so there's still just a teeny bit of wobble in it, so I'll go back up and then back down with that clay. I'll get my hands wet once again. I'll lean over that clay. I'll lock in my left arm, and then I will pull that clay into the left hand heel. Any of the excess slip we can just wipe away as we don't need it. We're going to go back down again, so I'll get my hands angled up over all of that clay. My thumb is off of that clay, and then I'm going to push forward and down at the same time and slowly trying to bring all of that clay down. I don't want to use too much pressure when doing this. I want to use a good amount of speed and water and let the position of my hands guide the clay. If we test the clay again, we can see that my finger stays on it the entire time. So that's how we know that we are center. For example, if I throw it off center like this, obviously I have some more work to do. If I am doing everything correct, I can get it back to center in one go. I will lean into that clay. And so just with leaning into that clay with this left hand, I can get it mostly back to center, and then I'll squeeze it up just a little bit more with my right hand. So now it's into a cone shape again. Then I'll add a little bit of water and then I'll go forward and down with that clay, slowly taking that clay down. Now it's back down into a puck shape. So now I can begin working on a piece. Some common mistakes that I see when centering are when our hands are on the clay, a lot of times they will get moved around. We just need to make sure that those elbows are really locked into place. So that way we are in control of that clay and it's not taking us all over the place. Another thing that I see that happens a lot, if we're going down with this clay, a lot of times people do a little bit too much downward pressure on that clay, and that forces that clay to mushroom out, which isn't necessarily the worst thing, just makes an extra step that we have to do when centering. To prevent it mushrooming down, we'll just need to make sure that we have that forward pressure engaged when we're bringing that clay down. Like so. Another thing to note, we never want to take our hands off quickly from the clay. For example, if I'm going down with that clay and I take my hands off fast, it puts a wobble into that clay. So we always want to take our hands off nice and slow. Not too fast, like so. I'm going to throw this clay off center again. Now I'm going to try and get it back to center in one go. So I'll take left arm, I'll lock it into place. This right arm, lock into place as well. And then pressure forward with that left arm, fingers pulling towards the heel of that left hand. Back up into a cone shape. That's where that pressure was distributed. Now I can take my hands, I can angle them up, pushing forward as well as down with this left hand. And so my aim is about right here, so I'm going to push that way. So I'll push forward and down and just slowly guide that clay down into center. Another tip is we don't want this thumb slipping off to the side as we're bringing that clay down. If it does, we'll get a little bit of a button right there. Again, I'll throw it off center. I'll lock in that heel of that left hand, forward pressure, squeeze that clay into one point, and then transition to pushing forward and down on that clay. Here it is again from that top-down perspective. I'll throw it off center. I'll get the clay wet. I'll lock in my elbow right here. The heel of this left hand will butt up right on that clay. My right hand will lock behind this left hand. I'll use the tips of my right hand fingers as well as pressure forward with the heel of my left hand to squeeze that clay into a cone shape. Now that it's in a cone shape, what I can do is I can bring that clay back down. So I'm going to be pushing right around here. I'm going to be pushing forward and down at the same time. And so I'm going to get that clay wet again. I'll angle those hands up. I want to be using this part of my left hand over all of that clay. Angle up, push forward and down, and just slowly let that clay guide into place. I'm not doing too much force, just really concentrating on keeping those hands nice and steady. Slowly then take my hands off, and we are center. Now I leave it up to you. Go and center that clay, and thank you for watching.